Today, I'm going to show you how I run a $100 million company in about 20 hours a week and how AI is a huge part of why that's even possible. So, I just got back from a few weeks in Europe with my family where I worked a little tiny fraction of that and the business kept going. So, by the end of this video, you're going to understand the exact principle that makes that possible. And I'm actually going to give you a free prompt that's going to revolutionize the way that you use AI. So when we teach this to the experts that we work with, there's like four things that we get them to understand. The third one, that's the one that's going to blow your mind. That's the one that's going to change everything. I'm Russ Ruffino. This channel is about how I built an AI powered $100 million coaching company that fits in a backpack and what I learned scaling our business past $1 million a month. I love my wife. I love my life. And hopefully you can learn something from all this. But of course, your results depend totally on you. And as always, I'm going to tackle this problem from two perspectives. I'm going to give you that tactical how to piece, including the AI prompt that I use for all this stuff. And I'm also going to show you how to tackle this problem from a spiritual or mindset perspective so that you're actually leveling up as a human being while you work on your business. All right, let's dive in. The first thing, which is the one that almost every expert gets wrong from day one, is that you have to understand your job. So here's the trap, and it's so subtle that most people never even see it. You got into this because you're great at something, right? You're a brilliant therapist, you're a brilliant consultant, you're an amazing coach. You change people's lives one at a time and you're good at it. And it feels like that's the job, helping the person in front of you. And so that's what you do. You pour everything into being the best at the actual work. But here's a reframe that changes everything. And I need you to really hear this. Your job is not to change people's lives. Your job is to build a machine that changes people's lives. Makes sense? Those are two completely different jobs. And if you don't understand that, if you keep believing that your job is to like personally do the work, you're never going to scale. You're going to be trapped. You're going to be doing the work with your own two hands until the day that you burn out or quit. So, you successful therapists, coaches, doctors, consultants, any kind of knowledge worker, this is the one that gets you because you're so good at the work and the work is so rewarding that you never actually make the leap to doing the real job. You stay a brilliant practitioner, and a brilliant practitioner has a hard ceiling because there's only so many hours and you're working every single one of those hours. So let me make the distinction really concrete for you. A practitioner asks, how do I help the client in front of me? But a real scalable business owner asks, how do I build something that helps 10,000 clients, whether or not I'm in the room? And the practitioner is going to end up building a job, but the business owner is going to build an asset. And the test is really simple. If you disappeared for 90 days, hell, that's probably even too long for most of you. If you disappeared for like 2 weeks, would lives still get changed? And if the answer is no, guess what? You don't have a business. You have a job, and it's probably a very rewarding job, but you're the bottleneck standing between your work and all those people that it could be reaching. And here's the part that should actually excite you because building the machine doesn't make you less of a healer or less of a teacher. It makes you a bigger one because a machine that delivers your genius can reach more people in a month than you could personally touch in a decade. And the most generous thing you can do with your gift is to make it scale beyond your own two hands. So, your job, your real job starting today is to stop asking, how do I do the work? And start asking, how do I build a machine that does this work? And everything else in the video is how you build it. And the first principle of building it is to stop solving every problem in the most expensive way that there is. And that's the second thing, which is to stop solving everything by hiring more people. All right, so once you accept that you have this real job, which is to build the machine that changes people's lives, the moment most experts get this, they start to reach for the most obvious tool, which is just hiring more people, right? The business depends on me, so I'll hire more people to do what I'm doing, right? And that makes sense on the surface. But here's what actually happens. You hire somebody to take a little bit of work off your plate, but now you have to train them. You have to manage them. You have to correct them. You have to cover for them when they're not there. And then you go and you hire a second person, and now the two of them have conflicts that now you have to meditate. So then you add in a manager to manage those people, and now you have to manage the manager. You see? So every person you add doesn't just add capacity, it does that, but it also adds complexity and payroll and potentially, drama and like a fresh set of problems that only you can solve. So you tried to buy your way out of the trap, but all you did was build a bigger, more expensive trap, and now your margins are just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Okay. So I lived this fear myself. When we were scaling rapidly, the thing that genuinely scared me was becoming one of those companies that's like, we're scaling, we're getting bigger, we're getting bigger, and then the client results start to suck. And then the whole thing turns into like a house of cards, but with payroll, right? And more people felt like more risk, not less. And here's what nobody tells you. For a huge category of the work that you're trying to hire for right now, hiring is actually the wrong answer. And it's not because people are not valuable, and it's not because you shouldn't hire anybody. The right people in the right seats is everything. But it's because today there's a whole class of work that used to require a human on payroll, and now it can be done by systems and by AI. So that's your content creation, your first drafts, your follow up, your financial analysis, your admin, all that stuff that used to mean another salary and another manager and another set of problems. A lot of it doesn't need a person anymore. So the move is not build this machine out of people. It's build this machine with systems, with AI, for everything that can be systematized. And then the humans are reserved for just a few things that, genuinely actually require a human being. If you do that, then you can scale your impact without scaling the complexity. And that's the only kind of scaling that gives you your life back instead of just gobbling it up. All right, so let me give you a concrete example because I actually built you a free tool that's going to help you do this. One of the most expensive things and most annoying things that experts have to do is write content. And that's what they hire for. So you hire a writer, you hire an agency, you hire a content team, and it's literally just to feed the algorithm. It's just to stay visible online. So I trained an AI on my own voice so that it drafts my content for me in my voice instantly. And I made you a free tool that's going to do the same thing with yours. I call it the voice engine. And what it's going to do, it's going to walk you through a process where it learns your own voice and then hands you back a profile that you can put into like Claude or whatever AI so that it writes like you instead of generic AI slop. And so that's one thing, content that now you don't have to hire somebody for. It goes right into the leverage. And the link to get that is in the description of this video. Grab it because it's like the perfect example of what I'm talking about, and that can change everything. All right. So we know the real job is to build the machine. We know that we want to build it with systems and AI and not just adding headcount, right? But how do you decide what you want to hand off and what you want to keep to yourself? There's a specific test, and this is one that changes everything. And that brings us to the third thing, which is to run the 92% rule on everything you do. All right. But before I give you the rule, I want you to feel the trap that it's about to set you free from. Because right now, let's say you're sold on building the machine. Russ, I'm with you. But there's one category of work that you have quietly decided you're going to keep forever. And that's the stuff that you're the best at, right? That's your genius. So yeah, you'll delegate the admin, sure. You'll delegate, the scheduling, you'll delegate the small stuff, but that core thing that you're world class at, you think, well, no one can do that like me. And so then that decision feels so obviously correct that you've never even questioned it. But here's why it's the most expensive mistake you've got left. So here's the rule. It comes from something I had to learn about myself, right? I have a legit genius for certain things: persuasion, positioning, communication. That's the thing I'm world class at. And for years, that genius was also my prison because I thought nobody could do those things like I could. And you know what? On some of those things, I was right. Nobody could do it exactly like me. But here's what set me free. I trained my team to do my genius work at about 95% as good as I could do it. And then when AI came out, I trained AI to do it about like 92, 93% as good as I could do it. And that's when I had to face the real question, right? That's the one that every expert has to face. Is that last 5 or 8% worth Me being chained to this task forever. In other words, is my ego worth this cage? Because that's what it really is. When you refuse to hand something off because like nobody can do it as good as you, that's not high standards. That's ego in disguise. And I'll prove it like with simple math. If a trained person can do it 95% as good as you, and AI can do it like 92% as good as you, and I promise you it can, then the only thing keeping you personally in that chair forever is your psychological need to be the one who's doing it. And that's not standards. That's pride. That's ego. And it has a price. And the price is you never get to leave and you never get to scale. So here's the 92% rule. For every single thing you do in your business, you ask yourself, could a trained person or an AI do this like 92% as well as I can? And if the answer is yes, hand it off. Train the person, build the system, set up the AI, take the 92%, take the 95%, and set yourself free. And then reserve your personal genius, right? That top sliver that can't be replicated for the tiny handful of things where that last bit of margin genuinely changes the outcome, and let everything else go. Because here's the part that's kind of hard to swallow, but it's also true. A genius that you can't reproduce, it dies with you. It doesn't scale. You can't sell your company, and it traps you working in that chair in that office until you burn yourself out. But a genius that you can train into your team at like 95% or into AI at 92%, that genius becomes a machine that runs without you. It grows, while you're in Europe with your family. It gives you a company you could actually sell one day because the value is in the system, not just in your two hands. Make sense? So you might have a real genius. I have a real genius, but the most valuable thing I ever did with mine was make it reproducible. 92% with AI, 95% with my team. So it stopped being a cage and started being my leverage. So that's your tactical takeaway. Take everything you do in a week and run that 92% rule on it, like line by line. Be ruthless and be honest and take your ego out of it, because your ego is going to fight you on every single item. It's going to keep saying, no one doesn't like you. And that's going to be on tasks that just frankly do not need you at all. Anything that clears that 92% threshold, start handing it off this week. And the free tool that I gave you is where to start, because content is the highest, easiest, highest volume thing to move first. Now, even once you've run the 92% rule, even when you've started handing things off, there's a fourth move. And this is the one where most people choke, because building the machine is one thing, but actually letting it run is something else. And that brings me to the fourth and final thing, which is to let it cook. So here's where almost everybody sabotages the whole freaking thing at the finish line. They run the 92% rule, they start to hand the work off, and then they can't take their hands off it. So they give a task to a team member and then they hover and then they redo it and then they quietly take it back the second that it's not like exactly how they would have done it. They set up an AI and then they like ignore the output and they write it themselves anyway. So on paper, yeah, they delegated, or they tried to delegate, but in reality, they're just doing everything. And so they get all the cost of a machine, but then none of the freedom that goes with it. So look, once you've built something, you got to do the hard thing. And that's take yourself out of it and let it work. Let it cook. And here's the part that nobody wants to hear. When you do that, mistakes will be made. Things will break. That team member is going to handle something a little differently than maybe you would have. The AI is going to produce a draft that's not that great. That's not the system failing. That is the system teaching you. Because every time your little system breaks, it's going to show you exactly where you need to train, where you need to raise the standards, where you need to give some clearer instructions. So those breaking points are the diagnostic. They tell you what you have to fix next. So you can't get that data if you never let it cook, right? If you hover and you catch and you correct every little thing in real time, you're never going to find out where your machine is actually weak. You're just going to stay the machine. So you got to let it operate without you. You got to watch where it breaks, and then you go fix that, the system, not the symptom. That's how your machine gets stronger. It breaks, you reinforce. It breaks somewhere else, you train it up again. Every cycle, then it needs you a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less. And so I'm not going to pretend this part is comfortable, because it actually sucks. Okay. The first time you let someone else run the thing that you've always run, and they do it like, even if they do it like 80% or 90% or 95% and something breaks, Every instinct in you is going to like scream to get it back. But if you grab it back, then you're right back in the cage. You've learned nothing about where the machine needs work. So those things you're dreaming of, wherever you want to go, you want to travel, you want to work 20-hour weeks, you want to have a company you could sell, all that stuff lives on the other side of you just being willing to let your machine cook and maybe even let it break. So here's your tactical takeaway. For everything you hand off, just build it as good as you can, right? Give it context, give it standards, examples, real training, then take your hands off and just let it run. Watch where it breaks. Allow your team members the ability to not get it quite right the first time, right? And don't grab the task back when they do. Go and train. Go reinforce the system so it doesn't get stuck there again. Let it cook, let it break, fix the machine. That's how it finally runs without you. All right, so let me put this all together for you. There's four things in order. Number one, understand your job. Your job is not to change lives, it's to build a machine that changes lives. Practitioners build a job, owners build an asset. Therapists, coaches, doctors, that's going to be the one that gets you. Number two, stop solving everything by hiring more people. When you add headcount, you add complexity, you add payroll, you add drama. Build the machine out of leverage, systems, and AI, not just more people. Three, and this is the big one, run that 92% rule on everything you do. If a trained person or an AI can do it like 92% as good as you, the only thing keeping you in that chair is your ego. Hand it off. A genius that you can't reproduce dies with you. And four, let it cook. Build it right, then take yourself out and let it run. Things are going to break, and the breakage is the map of what to fix. Don't grab it back, reinforce the machine. Now, the most important piece of this whole video, here's your spiritual North Star as you solve this problem. What this all really comes down to, if I'm being honest with you, is not about AI or systems or org charts at all. It is just about ego. And I want to name this very clearly because it is the thing that's underneath almost every trapped expert that I've ever met, including the guy that I used to be. So, the real reason that you will not delegate to either a person or to a machine isn't that they can't do it well enough, right? You saw the math. They can do it 92%, 95% as good as you. The real reason is that some part of you psychologically needs to be the one who does it, needs to be essential, needs to be the genius in the room. And without you, everything falls apart, needs to be needed. And that need disguises itself as standards, it disguises itself as excellence, but it's really just ego and it's going to ruin your life. So here's the hard truth about that ego. It feels like it's protecting your greatness, but it's just keeping you trapped. So as long as you need to be the one, you can never build anything bigger than yourself. You can never step away. You can never sell what you build. You can never sell your company because what you built is just you and you're not for sale. So the ego that insists nobody can do it like me, that's the same ego that guarantees that you're going to be doing it alone until the day you stop. Your pride and your prison are the same wall. And the way out is not to, think less of your genius, it's to think less about your genius. It's to care more about what you're building than actually being the guy that builds it or the gal that builds it. The moment you can say, you know what, I would rather this thing grows and outlives me and runs without me than have it depend on me forever, that's the moment that the cage door opens. And that's not the death of your greatness, that is the birth of something far larger than your ego. So there's a line in the Tao Te Ching, and that was written about like 2,500 years ago. And it says it better than anybody has since, honestly. Lao Tzu was describing the very best kind of leader. And he wrote, when the best leader's work is done, the people say, we did it ourselves. Sit with that. The best leader builds something so well, trains people so completely, sets up the machine so it runs so smoothly that everybody else gets to feel like they did it themselves. And that's what a leader is, right? A real leader's ego does not need the credit. The leader's genius is invisible, it's baked into the machine, it's running in the background. It's the spirit and the energy that holds the entire thing together while everybody else gets to shine and the whole thing grows. That is not a smaller kind of greatness. That is the biggest kind there is, the kind that doesn't need to be seen to be real. So when you find yourself like white knuckling a task and you're just refusing to hand it off, you're hearing that voice say, nobody can do this like me. I want you to stop and I want you to ask yourself one honest question. Am I protecting the work or am I just protecting my ego? And then do the brave thing, hand it off, build the machine, let it cook, let your people and your systems and your AI carry your genius forward at like 92 to 95%, so that one day that thing that you built can stand on its own and the people around you can say, we did it ourselves. That's the work. Now, look, if you want to see the exact start to finish roadmap that we used to go from 10,000 a month to over a million a month in our coaching business, I have a video that's going to walk you through exactly how we did it. The link is in the description of this video. Check that out. And if you're a coach, expert, consultant, author, speaker, doctor, any kind of knowledge worker, you're really going to want to see that video, believe me. And finally, we release videos like this once or twice a week. So drop a comment. What is the biggest challenge you're facing right now? And maybe I'll make a video that tackles it. Or what's the biggest thing you wish you knew how to do using AI? And I'll show you how to do that thing. I'm Russ Ruffino. I'll catch you in the next video.